So this is my milestone for level design. Go ahead and give it an aerial view first. So the level is broken up into these sections, which are usually these big square chunks outlined green the beginning of the section and red the end of it. So the first level being through there, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, eighth, and then they'll come into the boss area in the center. So I'll go ahead and give a run through of the level with some commentary on how it's going to look when it's finished. First I should note, while they do look like these squares, once you get inside, I'm using panels crafted for these blocks to shape out different paths through the level. So as you can see, it's just some corners that make a zigzag shape in here. For the first level, for the first section rather, there's not going to be any enemies or combat. We're going to have dead bodies kind of laying in the corridor of both enemies and allies, so that the player kind of knows what they're looking for. So between these rooms we have these bridges, which aren't just for effect. What we're going to do is use these to control the player's progression through the game. So as they exit this room, it's going to despawn everything behind them and lock the door behind them. So now that that room is done, it'll take everything out of it and make sure the player can't enter it again. And once they come up to this door, it will spawn everything in this room and unlock this door. So in the second room, they're going to come in and we're going to have allies over here. But as the way that the room is set up, they won't be able to see what the human allies are shooting at, and we'll be setting up the allies' health in such a way that they'll die before the player can get to them and interact with them, so that the player knows that there's enemies around this corner. So they'll come around the corner and they'll be behind these cover blocks, which won't be these white, chunky, blocky panels when we're done with them, and we'll make them something more visually appealing. They'll come around, defeat these, and there will be other enemies around here with some loot like health and ammo and such in the back. So as you can see, this is the same kind of square setup as the last one, but instead I've put panels in this arrangement and it crafts an entirely new path through the level, and that's how a majority of these levels are made. So they'll come through into this room and be directed into this cover. They'll find enemies here and here and here, with allies up here shooting down at the enemies with a bit of cover advantage. And once the room has been taken care of, these allies will engage in dialogue with the player and give them some instructions. Now move on to the next room, which is going to be room 4. So the way this is going to be set up, as a sort of defense mission. The player will have their respawn right about here in the center of the room. There'll be allies along these cover banks and ammunition scattered throughout. And the way that it's going to work is each one of these panels is eventually going to come down to reveal enemies. So enemies will first come out of here on the far one on this side, and then they'll come out on the opposite side, and then they'll come out much closer to the cover on this side, vice versa with this opposite side, and finally they'll come out of this third panel totally flanking that cover. So each one gets a little harder as it goes on, and once they defeat those 6 waves, then they'll be able to move on. So in this next level, we'll be introducing zombies and the melee enemies, whatever they happen to be in the end. Then there will be just one or two of them right here. And then the player will come around and find more of them right here. And there will be one or two allies in between these cover panels that are shooting at the enemies over here and over here. So if the player can get around and get to the allies before they're overrun by the zombies, they'll be able to pick them up and add them to their squad. Because this game, being running off the Source engine and running off of the Half-Life mechanics, they'll be able to recruit idle NPCs into their squad if they're friendly. So, and exit that level. We'll be introducing these bunkers of sorts to the player. So when they come into the room, there will be a squad of zombies right here. But if the player, and the player is presented with a choice, they can choose to just shoot down all the zombies. Either the door will lock behind them, so they won't have much room to move, or they can choose to go around and get into the bunker, at which point they will be safe because they can't climb over that. And so that's going to show them how those bunkers work. And when they come around the corner, we'll be back to having some ranged enemies, some droids, in this bunker shooting down this hallway. There will be zombies in here that the droids are shooting. So the player will have the opportunity to shoot at either zombies or the droids. But they'll know that the droids are ultimately safe from the zombies and they need to move forward eventually. So they can, decide if they'd like to let the droids take care of them, or maybe just destroy the droids and move on without the zombies. And so finally, you're going to come in here, and there will be some allies in this two-way bunker, and once you step inside with your allies, waves of zombies will start spawning here and here. It'll go through about like one on this side, and then one from both sides. So just a very short little mini defense, I suppose you could call it. And then you'll come into the 7th room, which is the final one of the boss fight. And so the way this is set up is it's a very circular room, and we're going to have an antlion guard or some manner of fast and tough melee enemy, so that the player will want to kite them around this room. And we will be placing, along these walls, we will be placing a button that will activate some sort of gun or some sort of trap for the antlions to walk through. And this will be in case the player runs out of ammo, so they still have options on how to deal with this. And then it'll be set on a timer. They have to survive so long before these doors open up. And they can come through into the 8th area, which is not a combat area. We will have, groups of NPCs along these walls that once the player will walk up to them, will display text to sort of, give dialogue to the player about what's going on here and just give some exposition. At the end of this hallway, the players are going to be given the choice between two new weapons. It'll be something like, the choice between a machine gun or an improved sniper rifle or a grenade launcher, and that will sort of also be a, quote, alternate path that in the coming up boss fight, they will have a new option to suit whatever playstyle they like, be it, a machine gun or a sniper rifle or a grenade launcher. And so they'll come into here. That area will be blocked off because that's just It's just a path in between the two for visual purposes. There's no actual gameplay to that. And they will have to come up this elevator that brings them into the boss room. And the way that the boss room is set up is it is a very long gauntlet. These panels are situated in a way that gives the player the longest possible path through this area, consisting of about, 17, 14 of these blocks. And so I haven't figured out all of what I'm going to do with this area, because that is going to be designing, sort of a level on its own. I want to put, this area is good for snipers. There's not a lot of cover in between, or this area is good for shotgun users, as to further compact that alternate path type thing, so that no matter what weapon you took in room 8, you will have some area in here in which that weapon excels. So, branching off pieces of, say, closing off this area and this area into one hallway, and then this area into a longer hallway. As you can see here, I can place halfway panels, and I can actually also place doors that fit these panels. Obviously I can lock them properly into place. So this area specifically is going to be a rest area. It marks the halfway point through the gauntlet, at which they'll be able to resupply on ammo and health and shields, and have another 2 allies to add to their party. Because at this point their party should be pretty thin after going through all that combat. And and a respawn point in there, of course. And so they will come back, or come through another 7 or 8 blocks into the very end, where there will be a powerful creature that is not just melee for them to fight in here. Well, that is my milestone video, and I'm going to also be uploading a few demonstration videos, kind of as a proof that I haven't just taken all of this from the workshop. I'm going to be showing you how I build this stuff, but I don't have a recording of me building the entire level, so I'll be recording me building a sample level. Building a sample section, rather. Alright.